This phone is more smart than a smartphone. This is a very, very good way in this current year for you to learn English.
Hello?
Hello? Yeah, wait a minute. I'm just on a video. Are you tired of wasting time learning English? This video is for you. I'm going to give you an idea for how to improve your English learning today. Let's begin. So this idea is about the difference between active learning and passive learning. When you actively learn English, you are creating the language. When you passively learn English, you are just absorbing the language. You're hearing it, maybe on TV or in podcasts. Maybe you're using some kind of a smartphone to have apps playing in the background. Maybe you're hearing people have conversations at work. Maybe they're using English and you're just listening to the background noise. That's passive learning. But when you actively speak English or write English, you have to create the language. This requires you to find words and phrases that you maybe have in your mind or you can recognize, but actually to create them on a page or to create them within a conversation. This is very good because it helps you to learn the meaning of those words and phrases. When you're actively creating the language, you're engaging with the context. You're trying to use the words, not just to hear them. Sure, passive learning can be helpful sometimes if you're really busy and you just have a few minutes to listen to a bit of a podcast or to an audiobook, but it's never going to be active learning. Active learning is the golden way to learn English. I made a video that you can see here about 12 different ways to learn English. I would suggest you watch that. The best ranked ways are at the top. So what's active learning? Active learning is when you, for example, have group conversations, or it could be a one-on-one class with a private tutor. It could be going out and finding some work where English is required. It could be helping with a local charity project, or it could be maybe writing a story, writing an essay, writing a text, writing an email. That's an active use of English. If you want to learn a musical instrument, for example, a guitar or the piano, you can't just learn by listening to songs. You also need to get good at playing the instrument. Well, in the same way, when you learn a language, you can't learn just by listening to the radio or listening to the TV or watching TV. You can't learn just by reading, whether that's articles on the internet or some kind of blog posts or Facebook posts. You can't learn the language just by reading the text. You need to also create the language, because when you create the language, your mind develops connections between words, phrases, and the context that they're used in. This is very important for learning English at a higher level. Active learning of English also requires you to be clearer when you speak and when you write. If you are just passively listening to the language or reading the language, you might be making mistakes when it comes to the meaning of words, or when it comes to understanding when a rule is applied and when a rule is not applied. Another reason that active learning is so important is that it forces you to take English very seriously. You see, when you learn passively, you might be listening to a podcast while you're cooking dinner. You're not learning the language with your full attention. It's something that is happening in the background. It's something that is not particularly important. Maybe you understand 50% or 70% and you're happy with that. And you say, okay, it's just background noise. But if you're learning the language actively, for example, having a conversation with another speaker, you have to pay attention to their every word. You have to focus on everything they're saying so that you don't get embarrassed or look stupid in front of them. You have to focus on the facial expression. Are they smiling? Are they not smiling? Are they sad when they speak? Maybe they're very down about something. You need to factor in all of this information when you speak English actively. When you write, you need to think, how will the other person who reads my text or my email, how will they think about this? How will they process this message? So active learning requires you to think about the other person when you speak and when you write. And that's what language is about. It's about a two-way communication between you and someone else. It's about a relationship. So the idea I'm about to suggest to you now to improve your English is this. For 1 month, replace your smartphone with a dumb phone. It's called a dumb phone, but I would just call it a phone. It's what phones are designed for, which is to make phone calls. That's the whole point of a phone. Now, a lot of people who use smartphones have obviously found them useful for things like podcasts and apps, like Duolingo, quiz apps for learning English. Maybe Google Translate can be helpful for you at times. But in doing all of these things, maybe people have lost the ability to speak with other people. We've lost the ability to connect with other people. We've lost the ability to read people's faces. So smartphones have a lot of problems when it comes to helping you learn English. And I would suggest that you go onto a group on the internet. So it could be a Facebook group or a Reddit group, a local group that has people who are also trying to learn English. This could be a local group in a cafe, in a library. Sometimes they have notices, or you can put up a notice, you can post a notice yourself on one of the information boards saying that you're looking to learn English, and see if you can find a partner to speak to for 1 month. Agree a time to speak with that person on the phone every day. Maybe it's once a day that you decide to do that for 10 minutes. It could just be a 10-minute phone call with that person. And you could choose the topic with them. You could say, let's talk about our day. I just want to update you just to let you know how my day was, and you tell me how your day was, and we ask each other a few questions, and that's it. Or it could be a topic that you agree on to maybe prepare something. Maybe you want to teach the other person about your interest in travel and about your experiences on your trips when you've been abroad. You might want to teach them about animals if you have some pets or you're interested in animals. Maybe they would like to teach you about cooking and about different recipes that they find enjoyable. So find someone who would be interested to learn English, and if they're a native, obviously that's really good as well. Maybe you can do something for them instead of teaching them English. Maybe you're very good at building websites and they need some help with a website. Maybe you can offer that native speaker something else in return for their time helping you learn English. Maybe you're very good at gardening and they need some help with their garden. Or maybe you could go in person and forget the phone. Go and meet them in real life and have a real conversation with them. This type of practice of English, speaking with people regularly, and you don't need to pay anything. This is completely for free. Going to a local group, finding a local group where people want to learn English, or where you can say to people you're looking for someone to speak to practice English, and maybe you can offer them something else in return. This is the best way that you can learn English right now, and it's the fastest way you can learn English, because it forces you to go into your database in your mind of all of the words, the phrases, the knowledge that you have of English, and create language. So the more that you can create language and not just absorb the language passively, the faster you will improve. It's not very comfortable. It can be very inconvenient. It might be a bit embarrassing sometimes if you can't communicate properly, you don't have the words, but that's when you learn. You learn when you can't speak and your mind is looking for the word, not when you know everything. Because if you just speak to people who don't know any English, or their English is so poor that you're not learning from them, well, you're not going to improve very quickly. You want to find someone, if you're intermediate level, who is also intermediate level, or maybe even a bit better at English than you. Go onto a group, look for people who would like to learn English in that group, and offer to speak with them, just for a month. Give yourselves a deadline and say that at the end of this month, we will stop. That forces you to take it seriously. If you'd want to continue with them later, you could do that. But for the short-term future, for the near future, agree to a very limited approach where you give a few minutes of your time and they give a few minutes of their time to listen to each other and to speak to each other in English. So put the phone down, the smartphone, and use your mind. This phone is more smart than a smartphone. I think this is a very, very good way in this current year for you to learn English when everyone is obsessed with smartphones and these smartphones are producing brain rot in people. A lot of people's attention span is very, very low at this point. You can go the other direction and get really smart by learning to practice English actively. Improve your English for free, completely for free, by speaking to people. Pick up a phone. If you can, speak to them in real life. I would suggest you speak to people who you can possibly meet in real life. The internet is full of scammers. It's full of people who are not real people. They could be bots. The internet has a lot of people who I wouldn't trust, and I would suggest you don't trust. And so the more trust you can build in real life, if they're in a local group who you can agree to meet in person sometimes, the better. Now, if you would like to practice your English one-on-one, speaking every week with a native speaker, you're more than welcome to book a free consultation with me. I take one-on-one calls and I'll be very happy to help you improve your English actively on a regular basis. My link is in the description box below. Now, if this video was helpful, please let me know in the comments. Are you someone who likes to speak English on the phone? Or do you prefer to use apps and listen to podcasts and other ways of learning English? Let me know down below and subscribe to this channel if you want more videos like this. And I'll see you in the next video.
The number you have dialed has been changed. The new number is, please note, the new number is